So I'm sure by now you've heard all of this first post-debate chatter. So I guess an estimated 84 million viewers watched round one, making it the top watched live televised event in history. We saw the clear lines dividing during the debate, and a lot of the issues we've covered on this channel were brought up. At one point, we hear Hillary say, quote, "Well, Donald, I know you live in your own reality," quote. So that's what I want to talk about tonight. We're going to discuss how and why these two very different realities are emerging. This election is clearly a result of relativism, which is the doctrine that knowledge, truth, and morality exist in relation to culture, society, or historical context and are not absolute. It makes itself known in statements like, "That may be true for you, but it's not true for me," or "It's all relative." This is clearly the age that we're living in. We see a lot of examples of relativism in this debate. One example is the Clinton email scandal. So I guess there's no absolute right or wrong as far as revealing classified information on a private email communications. There's been plenty of people who've been prosecuted for revealing a lot less sensitive information. Yet, I guess in Hillary's case, it is relative what she did. So she's not going to get punished, nor is anyone else that was involved in the scandal. An example on the other side would be Trump not paying his federal income taxes. Again, traditionally this would be a clear-cut, absolute right or wrong situation, but for some reason we see his supporters saying it's, a relative issue and it's in that gray area. So the result of all this relativism going on is an entirely gray spectrum where no black and white or right and wrong exist because everything's just relative. So in this election, we really see a full-on attack on absolute truth. This complete scrambling and confusing of absolutes has given rise to Trump's reality and Hillary's reality, which are clearly two different worlds. So I'm going to talk about how in this election they're attacking absolute party lines, they're attacking absolute morality, absolute facts, and the absolute truth. By attacking and confusing all of these absolutes, they're actually forcing you to abandon the idea that there's any absolute anything. So they were even scrambling these party lines by saying George Bush Sr. is actually gonna vote for Hillary Clinton, which is pretty shocking. But of course, this election cycle, we've seen plenty of people jumping party lines and going to the other party or even third-party candidates due to just completely despising the nominee. We saw this confusing of party lines even visually at this first debate. We noticed Hillary wearing the traditionally Republican red, and Trump was actually in the Democratic blue. Red is almost always associated with Republican values like strength, power, determination, danger, war, things like that. And blue almost always universally represents this kind of serenity and confidence, more democratic ideals. So it was really, really interesting that they changed up the colors. Again, traditionally Republicans are red and Democrats are blue, and this has been that way since about the beginning of colored televised election cycles. So definitely interesting. Because of these two very different realities that each candidate represents, even the facts are being scrambled up and becoming relative. Fact-checking in real time was a huge phenomenon this first round. We see PolitiFact, NPR, Bloomberg TV, FactCheck.org, among others, that were doing these fact checks live. But in reality, these fact checkers were actually so biased that they really only served to reinforce the relative reality that they were representing in the first place. For example, PolitiFact came out and said that Trump's statement about a Clinton staffer starting the birther controversy was a lie. But of course, we know that's, one of those things that are considered relative as far as Trump supporters go, because it is a fact that Clinton staffers started that kind of theory. Even the candidates themselves, their own websites, DonaldJTrump.com and HillaryClinton.com, both became fact checkers, live fact checkers during the debate. So do you see the kind of direction that I'm going in here? Even the facts, these absolute concrete facts, are being perceived as being relative and debatable. So we can't even trust the online polls now, I guess. Here's a Business Insider article talking about how Fox News hosts were supporting Donald Trump by promoting these unscientific online polls. So, interestingly, Hillary Clinton won by a landslide in the CNN polls and also in the CNN focus group for the debate. However, virtually every single online poll was showing that Donald Trump was the winner. Interesting. So of course, again, we have Business Insider saying that these kind of polls are unscientific and shouldn't even, they were reprimanding Hannity for even using this kind of information. However, it's pretty interesting that just 4 years ago in the 2012 election cycle, they were saying that online polling, 2012 proved that online polling is accurate, efficient, and cheap. In fact, they said many internet surveys were more accurate than the Gallup polls. But hey, now they're unscientific. 4 years ago, they were the new thing. That's how it goes. But anyway, I've talked a lot on this channel about how Trump and Clinton definitely have spiritual agendas behind them. We definitely know this in the globalism and anti-globalism apparent in their respective, campaigns, but we also see it in this representation of the absolute truth versus the relative truth. Most Trump supporters believe there is an absolute truth, and I would guess that almost virtually every Clinton supporter has to believe in a relative truth. In fact, liberals in general believe in this kind of relative truth. One of the problems with this relativity is, again, we have to abandon the absolute truth in order to believe in relativity. Now, the reason liberals believe in this kind of ideology is because we can't have unity if we have an absolute truth. For example, if an absolute truth is it's always wrong to murder, well, anybody who doesn't agree with that can't be united with the truth. Okay, there's always going to be a separation between people who follow the absolute truth and people who don't believe in the truth. However, if all truth is relative, then we can all pretty much get along, because if a murder happens, such as an abortion, for example, society can judge them based on their respective relative conditions rather than an absolute truth. So, again, truth is exclusive, whereas relativism is going to be inclusive. And a lot of these Clinton supporters believe that if they could just get rid of these people, these racist, xenophobic deplorables, right? If they could just get rid of them, then the rest of society actually could become united. But like I said before, part of the liberal agenda's problem in denying an absolute truth, they believe everybody should be held to the same moral standard. However, they also believe there is no absolute moral authority, Therefore, if there are no absolute standards to judge people by, how are you going to judge everyone under the same standard? Okay? The New World Agenda and this kind of idea will take over. Doesn't really matter who wins this election because Scripture is clear that they will be successful eventually. If you're not a Christian and you believe in these type of things, then I urge you to take a look at the Bible. If you are a Christian and you find yourself over in this camp, please, pray for discernment about the spiritual agenda that is behind this movement. Ask for some discernment in that area because this is really significant. Again, I don't really know for sure that Trump's going to win, but I believe that if he does, that this group of people will finally kind of be brought up to, so to speak, be beheaded. It may be literal, but in this sense, I'm talking about hypothetically being brought up and beheaded so that this can really become the solution to the chaos that we get if he wins. That's just my opinion. However, it is important to again note the spiritual aspect of each agenda. So let me know what you guys think. I appreciate it, and I hope everybody has a great night.